Now that the Olympics has wrapped up last month, we can ignore Great Britain only managing one bronze medal in the boxing and instead be in awe of Uzbekistan's dominance in the sport at this year's Olympics. However, despite Uzbekistan's recent Olympic success, their medal tally is nowhere near that of the US and Cuba. Both countries have more than double the medals of Great Britain, which ranks third in boxing. It's no surprise that the US has historically been dominant in amateur boxing, having produced a plethora of elite professional boxers, many of whom benefited from the country's deeply competitive amateur boxing program. However, it's interesting that Mexico, another major boxing nation known for producing numerous elite professional boxers, hasn't seen this success translate to their amateur scene, with only 2 Olympic gold medals in boxing. This makes Cuba an intriguing case where various socio-economic factors have contributed to their Olympic success, yet this hasn't carried over as much to Cuban professional boxing. Cuban amateur boxers were historically banned from transitioning to professional boxing, a policy spearheaded by Fidel Castro. The reasoning was simple: professional boxing is a capitalist industry driven by profit, which conflicted with the Cuban government's communist values. With the prohibition of professional boxing, Cuba shifted its focus entirely toward nurturing amateur boxers, committing to boxing excellence. This was reinforced by socialist principles using sports like boxing to showcase the nation's strength and unity. This professional boxing ban remained in effect until 2022, when the Cuban Boxing Federation lifted the 60-year restriction, allowing their boxing talents the freedom to pursue professional careers. However, during the ban, many of Cuba's amateur stars defected from the country in the hopes of turning professional. In Cuba, these amateur talents, some of whom were world champions and Olympic medalists, earned as little as $20 a month, with champions making under $300 a month. When you consider the lack of financial compensation and the fear of being forgotten, as many great amateur boxers are, it's no surprise that some would risk never seeing their families again to chase their professional dreams. But why is Cuba so successful in amateur boxing, particularly at the Olympics? One key reason is that by banning all professional sports, Cuba was able to fully concentrate on its athletes competing in amateur competitions. This laser focus is evident in grassroots Cuban boxing, where the country's boxing program identifies and cultivates talent from a young age. I distinctly remember watching a documentary on this very subject several years ago in the excellent Sons of Cuba film. The documentary being set in the Havana Boxing Academy, which has trained numerous Cuban Olympic medalists. It focuses on 3 Cuban youths who endure grueling training while balancing their school lives as they prepare for Cuba's national boxing championships. You see these children living together, bonding over their immense desire to succeed. There are scenes of them celebrating victory and lamenting defeat, making for a compelling story. But beneath it all, it highlights how limited their options are just to survive. Boxing isn't just an after-school club for them, it's often their only means of providing for their families. These boxing boot camps give Cuban boxers access to high-quality training and better nutrition from a young age, giving them a massive head start compared to most amateur boxers who may pick up the sport later on and don't learn the value of nutrition until a later age. Since most Cuban boxers do not defect until they achieve some amateur credentials, Cuba doesn't risk losing its best talents to professional boxing, allowing them to draw from a deep talent pool for an extended period of time. Some of these Cuban talents compete in amateur competitions well into their 30s, which often leads to criticism of them being in their, advanced years, beating 18 or 19-year-olds. That said, the rigorous training Cuban boxers undergo as amateurs instill qualities that make their fighting style tailor-made for amateur competition. This is largely due to their focus on defense. Instead of adopting an aggressive style to wear down their opponents, Cuban boxers rely more on distance management and quick, rapid-fire jabs, topped off with fancy footwork that allows them to constantly shift positions and angles. These skills are clearly well drilled into Cuban fighters from a young age. This makes sense because the amateur boxing scoring system favors a style that emphasizes hitting without getting hit. Cuban boxers are adept at accumulating points through clear, precise punches while minimizing the punches landed on them. These factors have been key to Cuba's success at the Olympics, further emphasized by their ability to adapt to numerous changes in amateur boxing over the years, such as the removal of headgears and adjustments to the scoring system to more closely resemble professional boxing. So, Cuban boxers are technically proficient. Unfortunately, the reasons for their success in the amateur scene are the same reasons many struggle to achieve mainstream success in professional boxing. They leave Cuba to join the pro ranks at an age where they're considered old, often spending their best years in the amateurs. Additionally, with most Cubans possessing a highly defensive fighting style and lacking the aggression that entertains, they have fewer opportunities to find promoters willing to back them. This is not helped by the fact that many Cuban boxers do not speak English, making it difficult to appeal to a Western audience. And boxing is a brutal sport. A single misstep, whether that's a loss or a poor performance, can cause fans or promoters to lose faith in a boxer who is already not the most marketable. We've seen many times that amateur boxing success does not always translate to professional boxing success. So it's not even guaranteed that a Cuban amateur standout has the tools to adjust to the longer, grittier professional rounds. A great example is the legendary amateur boxing king, Rigondeaux. Despite his incredible amateur accolades and an undefeated professional record for 9 years, Rigondeaux never had a single pay-per-view fight in his career. His bout against Nonito Donaire should have been his crowning achievement, but instead it turned fans away from his future fights. In contrast, Lomachenko, who fought in similar weight divisions and also started his professional career relatively late, became a more valuable marketing asset due to his exciting fighting style. However, with the lifting of the Cuban professional boxing ban, we may see more talented Cuban boxers transition to the professional ranks earlier. But like many inexperienced professional boxers, Cuban fighters are likely to find themselves in bad business deals due to their lack of experience outside of Cuba and desperation to do anything to box professionally. This puts them in less favorable positions to succeed. So despite their clear skills and talent at the amateur level, Cuban boxers face an uphill battle to achieve mainstream professional success. But that's all for this video. As always, let me know what you think in the comments and I'll catch you in the next one.